Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Today we have 3 brand new stories, starting with a short one. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Don't ask a question you might not want to hear an answer to. This one comes from my old man. He used to work at Ford Motor Company for many years and has many stories to tell about how insane it was to work there. However, this one is short and sweet, and I found it hilarious. Anyways, as you might imagine, there were many hundreds of workers on site, and most drove to work in a variety of cars. Management and HR decided it would be best for the company if as many people as possible drove a Ford, so they printed off a crap ton of flyers that said, "Why isn't this a Ford on it?" and put them on the windscreens of all the employee cars that weren't Fords. Cue hundreds of flyers coming back to HR and management with the statement, "Because you don't effing pay us enough," and various other offensive words written on them. Management decided that they didn't care what car their employees drove after that. And our next story. Karen makes a mess in store, tries to pass off the blame, and fails. Couple days ago, I saw my friend at the same store I was at. While my mom was getting her other groceries, I was getting ingredients for the next day's dinner. We started talking, and soon enough, enter Karen. Karen to me. "Excuse me, can I get to that fridge behind you?" Me. Yeah, no problem." She was wearing her hair up in a bun with a pen, and she had a casual Karen look with a jean jacket, red shirt, and jean pants. We move out of the way, and she gets her milk by reaching around from the door behind us to the one that was open where she was. I look at what she's doing a bit confused and return to my conversation. She eventually gets the milk jug wedged extremely tight and continues to vigorously yank on the jug handle and gets frustrated at why it's not coming out. Me. "You know, there's a door that's more convenient to get the milk out from." Karen. "I know how to get milk out of a fridge." Me. "Okay then." My friend to me. "Obviously not." We laugh, and Karen gets so mad that she takes the pen out of her hair and stabs the milk jug. It sprays all over my friend and a small amount at me. I get mad and yell at her about what the hell she was thinking. She smirks and stabs another milk jug and another. She was on a rampage. She starts lobbing the entire half jugs after a while. She smugly says, "Who can't get a milk jug now?" My friend and I were about to leave to tell the store staff, but she ran off with her cart laughing like a maniac. We thought she'd gone mad from a simple joke. We go to the front of the store to tell someone. We run into Karen, and she points at us and says, "There are the 2 who made the mess with the milk. They have it all over them, so it only makes sense." The employee looks at us and asks if this is true, as Karen had milk on her jacket as well. We tell him it's not true and our side of the story. Karen denies it, so the employee just shrugs and says, "I guess I'll check the security cameras." The color of Karen's face runs like water. Karen, "Sorry, but I have my son at home, so I should probably get back to him." She starts to run, but my friend stops her, and the employee calls to get the manager of the store. Eventually, the manager finds the footage of her making the mess and tells the Karen unless she cleans up her mess and pays, he's calling the cops. The manager calls the cops anyway, and both my mom and her parents find us, and the manager explains. We leave the store, and we still can't forget her face when she knows she's been caught. And our last story. I told that B not to F with me. This story starts a couple years ago in a small but very nice and quiet neighborhood. Most people own their homes, and everyone takes pride in ownership besides the house next to mine. The house next to mine is Section 8, meaning government assistance/welfare pays all the bills, and usually some form of trash lives there. The certain piece of trash this story is about, well, let's call her Fraggle Rock, because she looks like one. This bee moves in and immediately starts partying. I mean like an everyday, all-day booze fest. She's selling pills, throwing trash all over my property, brings her crew around my house, and keeps my family up really late with their loudness. I really dislike her at this point, but I ignore her. Her boyfriend is extremely violent, and they beat each other constantly. The 4-year-old child she has is dirty-looking, neglected with behavior problems, and has to witness this crap. It was awful, but none of my business. I spoke to the Fraggle one time when she first moved in. I explained I had a really big dog and to just ignore her as she barks a lot, but will eventually get used to her like she had with the other neighbors. We were actually removing a swing set off the property line when I spoke to her. Our 6-foot privacy fence was put up about 15 feet away from where our property actually ended, and I saw she had a small child and didn't want to get sued because her child got hurt on my property. The landlord lives in a different state and is very absentee. Fast forward a couple months, most of my family went on vacation to another state for an entire month, and as soon as I returned, not even 2 hours later, I'm hauling suitcases from the trunk of my car. Mr. Out-of-State landlord comes by and says his tenant is complaining about me looking in her windows, and we need to stay on our side of the fence. That brings about an argument. First of all, I can be on my property all I want. Second of all, we've been out of state for a month, and I haven't been on that side of our property since the Fraggle moved in, and we removed the swing set. I told the landlord I'll be moving my fence closer to the property line. I'm unsure where all the accusations came from. I was now agitated with this bee, and she even went as far as to call city officials the day I started moving my fence after we called her over and showed her our survey spikes. Around this time, I noticed our Mastiff, who was treated badly by previous owners and behaves like a guard dog, has taken a particular disliking to them, so I start watching out my window when I hear her growling. I wish I hadn't seen what I saw. One of her daily regular friends was jamming a stick through my fence into my dog's face. He actually broke my effing fence doing it. I ran outside and screamed, "You effing a-hole! You will effing pay for this!" He ran inside and I saw the Fraggle peeking out from behind her curtain, effing laughing. The very next day, the little boy is beating on my fence with a hammer and my dog is on the other side flipping out. I yell at him to get his mother now, but she would not come out to talk to me. A few more days later, the kid's throwing dirt into my dog's eyes over my fence. The next day, he's back with the hammer. I go to City Hall and ask the lady there to contact the landlord ASAP and give him my phone number. I never got a call back. Another incident happens with the same friend of hers. He's smoking with the little child only feet away and my dog is barking. I'm right there in my backyard and see and smell it all. He kicked a big old hole in my fence and actually kicked my effing dog. I had it. I went to the police, not something I would normally do, but I didn't want to lose my dog when one of these a-holes gets bit. I talked to the cop, and we discussed the entire situation, the parties, the domestic violence, and he told me the only way to get her out, since she was Section 8 and the landlord was uncooperative, was to call in her drug deals, and she would be kicked off government assistance as soon as she was convicted. It only took 1 day of calls, and I crap you not, 17 effing calls the first day, all with license plate numbers. The next day, I heard her yell, talking to one of her girlfriends. Her voice was always loud and shrieky, so I can hear and understand most of her outside conversations from my living room, about a bunch of her friends getting locked up the day before, and she didn't understand why or how this was happening. At this point, I believe the cops called CPS. They started coming around, but she was not answering the door. One day, she left the child unattended and was playing on the main street. A family around here noticed and walked the little boy home, but no one was home to watch him. CPS was waiting out front this time. She somehow still had her kid after that, but not for long. There was one more incident with my dog. A different jerk decided it was a good idea to pelt my dog with rocks. I was in my yard all the time because I had to be. It was a serious inconvenience to be in the yard every time my dog wanted to be outside, but I felt it was the only way to make sure these people didn't harm her. I lost my mind that last time and started pelting the guy back with rocks. The Fraggle was on her back porch, knocked out, and she awoke briefly to let out a snorty pig laugh like it was all a effing game. The Fraggle likes to drink and drive. I decided I'd wait and watch and call in her next drunk driving adventure. She had to go. It didn't take very long. A few days later, her violent scumbag boyfriend stole her purse and jumped into a car that was waiting and took off. I heard her scream, "My pills! Give me my effing pills!" I see her stumble to her car, completely crap-faced, hop in, and peel wheels in hot pursuit. I call it in. The poor child was outside in the snow barefoot. That's a perfect example of her priorities. The cops arrested her, and I knew that because CPS came the next day after the child never went to school. They found the little boy there all alone, just how he'd been the whole night. The bee was too worried about getting in trouble to disclose to the cops she'd left the child, a 4-year-old, home alone. Really sad, but hopefully he has a new family now, or at least will one day. The Fraggle returns a day later, no car, and she stops going to whatever job welfare forced her to have. The violent boyfriend must have been in jail still from her purse snatching incident because there's a new scumbag boyfriend hanging around with track marks visible a mile away. Well, violent boyfriend gets out of jail and runs up to the house. I saw the whole thing. Dopehead boyfriend and violent boyfriend start fighting. There's a bat and blood. I decide this is my chance to get the cops in the house and finally get these effing pieces of trash out. It was a sight. Cops come, guns drawn, dopeheads run inside, and violent boyfriend runs through the other neighbor's yard. In the end, they all went to jail. Unfortunately, it wasn't the complete end. When she got out of jail, she smashed the back window and squatted there for about a week. I didn't bother calling the cops because I knew the house was getting damaged, and it felt good knowing the landlord would have to fix it, and Section 8 will not pay for damages. Fraggle's gone. I've seen her once around town. She's living on the streets, lost everything, and she really had it all, and her life was so easy living off the government. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.